Boa Hancock debuted on One Piece Treasure Cruise Global on the 8th of November 2017. The interesting thing about this Sugo is that Hancock herself debuted on the Korean version a few months prior, with no rare recruits attached. However, when arriving on Global, 4 new rare recruits had appeared out of nowhere, and they ended up being extremely impactful characters for various teams. The characters in this batch included Beppo, Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator, Margaret, Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator, Boa Marigold, Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator, as well as Boa Sanderzonia, Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator. And the Sugo-Fest exclusive character of the batch aimed to further bolster the shooter class in OPTC. Oddly enough, only one of the 4 supporting rare recruits actually aimed to do this as well. This character had a great healing and offensive capability with an attack multiplier that was relatively easy to maintain. Introducing Boa Hancock, Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator. In this series, we'll be traveling back in time to experience some of the older Sugo-Fest exclusive characters in their prime, aiming to show just what it was like to use these characters on their debut. I hope you enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's enter the Legends of OPTC. So welcome back to another episode of the Legends of OPT series. Thank you very much for continuing to watch this series, as I love, just going through all these old legends once again. And we're going to a character today, which is one of my personal favorites back in the day when this character first came out. I loved everything about this unit. It was a Boa Hancock character for one, but also it was a shooter-based character, and I loved the shooter characters, the shooter class back in the day. Though the shooter class wasn't very good, I still really enjoyed using some of the characters. So we're going to jump into their Sugo-Fest batch today, talk about it, and we'll have a look and see what kind of content we're going to be playing today as well. So let's start things off with 2 of probably the best rare recruits to ever release in the game's history. I mean, these characters are so good. Boa Sanderzonia and Marigold. Unfortunately, the database still hasn't got the artworks up, but Boa Sanderzonia is a Dex Striker powerhouse unit with the captain ability of boosting those 2 classes by 2.5 and giving Dex characters an HP boost. So the character as a captain, not really used, but special ability, 14 turn cooldown would change all slots into Dex and then reduce all enemies' defense by 80% for 2 turns, and then boosting the attack of Striker and Powerhouse by 1.75 times for 2 turns. A little bit weird that they introduced Striker and Powerhouse centric units with, V2 Boa, who is a shooter based unit. Didn't really make a lot of sense, but in the grand scheme of things, this really affected some of the other characters that released prior to V2 Boa, being V2 Lucci and also Cat Viper. We talked about them extensively in those videos that the Boa sisters were just incredible together. So you got to keep in mind when we talk about Marigold, this character gives you dex slots, does a defense down, and also is an attack booster. Pretty good set of skills right there. So next, if we have a look at Marigold, who is going to be a strength striker powerhouse with the captain ability of being the exact same, but for strength characters HP instead. And then once again, 14 turn cooldown would change quicken dex slots into matching, boost the attack against enemies with reduced defense by 1.75 for 2 turns, and gives you 60% damage reduction for 1 turn. So of course, like, the damage reduction effect is whatever, but the other effects, obviously, if you have Sanderzonia going first, you can change the dex slots that are given to you into matching, and then this unit gives you a conditional boost against defense down. So with the Boa sisters together, you can get a full board of matching slots, a 1.75 conditional, a 1.75 attack boost, and then some damage reduction on top of it as well. These 2 units are just way too good. They were way ahead of their time. And as we mentioned, those 2 characters with Lucci being used in a powerhouse sense, or with Neko Mamushi, Cat Viper, in a striker sense, those were the 2 best legends at this point in time, just due to the fact that the Boa sisters existed, which is pretty crazy to think about. However, they actually did release another rare recruit that actually helped out the shooter class, which was Margaret. Margaret being just an int shooter with no secondary typing, or class should I say, boosting the attack of shooters by 2x, and then 2 times recovery healed at the end of the turn, so a pretty bad captain effect. But then the special ability, which would give you a 7% health cut to 1 enemy, and then give shooter characters a 1.75 times orb boost or slot effect boost for 3 turns. Not a crazy good special, but obviously it's nice that shooters get access to a character like this. I mean, 3 turn boosts of this caliber were not very common at all when this batch came out. So this was pretty substantial. You know, we had a couple of 1.75 orb boosters for 1 turn, but now we have a 3-turn orb booster, which would work very well with characters like Clash Zephyr, for example, which would be a multi-turn attack booster. So now you have multi-turn attack and orb boosts on the shooter class. We're going to skip over Boa Hancock for now, because for some reason with the way that they actually ordered the IDs of these characters, Beppo is also another character that released alongside this batch. So Beppo is a quick fighter powerhouse. Captain ability would be -2 cooldown, and then a quick 2x attack, 2x health. Not a very great captain ability, but then the special ability would be a 15% health cut, and then reducing threshold damage reduction by 5 turns. Removing debuff by 5 turns, way ahead of its time. Of course, it is kind of mediocre because that's basically all it does. But being able to remove 5 turns of a debuff is really good. And I mean, there are some niche uses for this character here and there. Just, you know, you never know when you're going to need a character that can remove 5 turns of threshold. But he also does a bit of damage, and in today's day and age, you could have support effects that could kind of, you know, get use out of that. So on release, really didn't see a lot of play at all because threshold damage reduction wasn't super common. But of course, as time progressed, having a special like this is pretty useful. So now we can go ahead and talk about the Sugo-Fest exclusive Boa Hancock Straw Hat Luffy's Conspirator, being a Psi shooter-free spirit, and the captain ability would boost the attack of shooters by a variable factor depending on the tap timing of the previous unit. So basically, if you hit like a miss or something like that, it's going to be a 2.5 times boost. I believe a good would be 2.75. Great is 3 times boost, and then a perfect is a 3.25 times boost. So essentially, if you just keep hitting perfects back to back to back, the next unit just keeps getting 3.25 times attack. It's actually pretty decent back in the day, like an almost unconditional boost. I mean, there's no like health requirement or anything. Like, it's pretty easy to achieve this. Just hit perfects, like just hit perfects 5 head, easy. But it also gives you 1000 recovery at the end of the turn, and then greatly reduces the chances of receiving a tandem and a recovery slot. Which is actually pretty good for the special ability of this character as well, which we'll get to. But the additional 1000 healing per turn is pretty solid. I mean, if you have double Boa plus you have auto heal, that's 3000 healing per turn. That is fantastic. And of course, it does offset the fact that you're not getting recovery slots, which obviously sucks. So they give you a little bit of recovery at the end of the turn to kind of offset it, which does make sense. So good design, honestly. And then looking at the special ability, go ahead and deal 6 hits of 20k fixed damage to random enemies, which actually could be useful depending on the content. Also gives you 1 turn of delay, and then makes all type slots beneficial to shooter characters for 2 turns. So because of the way that the character is built, making tandem and recovery slots not appear as often, in a lot of cases, you're just going to have a full board of type slots, which when you use her special, all of them are going to be beneficial to you for multiple turns, which is good. And it is good that it is a 2-turn boost. It would be awesome if it was 3 turns, but it means when you move on to a next stage, an enemy has a preemptive that can give you a badly matching slot effect. You can just have this special used in the stage prior to kind of avoid that altogether, which I really do like. So the character doesn't really provide an orb boost, color affinity, attack boost, nothing like that. This character's main focus is to be a relatively stally captain, getting that heal per turn, good attack multiplier, and on your burst turns you can use her special to get a lot of matching slots, which is actually pretty good, because there weren't too many characters still that were just guaranteeing you slots. And while this doesn't really guarantee you slots either, but still, if you have type slots, they're going to be beneficial to your shooter characters, which was pretty solid. So let's go ahead and see what kind of content we're going to be playing today. So we have Clash Roblucci, Clash Magellan, and Clash Doflamingo. Now, these are all int bosses, of course. It makes it a little bit easy for Boa Hancock, but let's go ahead and just see what we have here today. And remember, that is V2 Clash Doflamingo. It would be awesome to get him. It would be awesome to have Roblucci. I kind of don't want to get Magellan because I think it's going to be like a little bit too easy. So let's go ahead and spin that wheel and hopefully get a really, really good raid boss for you guys today. Let's go ahead and see what it's going to be. And it's going to be that Clash Doflamingo. This is actually a relatively tricky boss. I believe this came out when like Legend Lucy came out. So this is going a little bit further ahead. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and jump into team building for this raid against Clash Doflamingo. 2 back-to-back reds. Let's do it. Yes! Oh my god! Yes! 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 Finally! Yes! Finally! Oh my god! Finally! Finally! Oh! Finally! Oh my god! And here we are in game with my girl Boa Hancock, captain of the Kuja Pirates and one of the Royal 7 Warlords of the Sea. Despite her rank as a warlord, she took Luffy's side in his struggle against the Navy, and she would later bring him to her land so that he could recover from the injuries sustained in the Paramount War. So here we have Boa Hancock, and I do have mine limit broken. I did have a dupe sitting here that was already limit broken, and I didn't want to go through, you know, leveling up another unit. We're just going to be using a limit broken one this time around, which I know this character wasn't limit broken on release. Of course, the limit break hadn't released at this point. But that's what we're doing today, so tough titties. Anyways, this is the team that we're bringing today up against the Clash Doflamingo. So we've got a really good attack booster in 6+ Strongworld Ace. We also have Kuzan, who's going to be pretty key actually in this team. And then we've also got the Van Augur. So he's going to be like one of our best orb boosters at this point as well. Now, of course, Boa Hancock is going to be the type advantageous unit this time around. And we're basically just trying to support her so that she can output as much damage as she possibly can. Now, you may be wondering, why the hell have we got this random white-bit pirate on this team? Well, there's a really annoying gimmick in this fight. You actually will kill Doflamingo, he'll revive, and he has a really annoying barrier to get through. So we're going to be going ahead and using his special to remove it, and that's literally the only reason why he's here. I do think it still should be okay. So let's go ahead and just jump into the content. I'm just psyched to get into this one today. So shout out to TheLordShiro and also Karissa for putting up the Boa Hancock. Let's go ahead and use Karissa's Boa Hancock here today. And here we have our squad. We've got level 3 matching slot rate increase, which is actually pretty good because remember, we don't have that many recovery and tandem slots appearing. So with that in mind, plus the sockets, I do believe we should be seeing quite a few matching slots. So hopefully that's the case. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the content and hopefully we can get the dub on the first try. Let's go ahead and get it. And here we are in game with Boa Hancock, and we got some really nice super evolved shooter characters as well, which I'm so excited to just use this team. Another thing that I didn't really mention as well is that we are using the Borsalino ship, which is a really good shooter dedicated ship. It actually gives -2 cooldown at the start of the quest. I believe it's 1.55 attack, but the difference between this ship and Ace's shooter ship is the fact that Ace's ship does provide slightly more HP. So hopefully that's not going to be that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and get this party started. So in terms of these cooldowns, this is not pretty good for us at all. These guys have really annoying cooldowns. There should be a stage coming up with a turtle. That'll be probably a really good place to get our stall in, of course. But due to the -2 cooldown that we actually have from the ship, it's actually really good so that we don't have to stall as much. And I did not know that this guy was going to bind our character, so that obviously sucks. But of course, you know, stalling is not something that Boa Hancock struggles with, considering the amount of recovery that she can get. Obviously healing for a pretty decent chunk. Now, of course, one of our characters was binded, so we don't get much there. And actually, technically, we could sit here for a very long time just stalling, because, I mean, so we do 3,000 heal. He does 4,200, so we probably have to move on at some point. So let's go ahead and move on now. We don't really have to stall that much, I don't think. Plus, with all the preemptive attacks that's going to be happening, this actually might be a very quick video. Once again, let's just go ahead and attack. Stupid seahorse. Always the seahorse, man. Always got to kill them before they attack. They are bad news. Really good damage there from Boa Hancock. Over 1 million damage, which is pretty solid. That's super solid. Alright, already moving on to stage 3. So stage 3, we have a treble mini-boss. Okay. So what's he going to be doing? Stick'em launcher. So he's going to be binding some of our characters. We can deal with that, no problem. Let's just go ahead and do normal attacks. Oh wow, we're doing really good damage. Okay, oh wait, what does he do? What does he do on death? Wow, that is a pretty substantial amount of damage. But once again, the Boa Hancock heal coming in very clutch. So we've got a mini-boss Doflamingo on stage 4. He changes his type to a quick typing, so luckily we have Ace for that. And he's going to be special binding our characters in the bottom row. We could use a Boa special, but I feel like, because luckily we actually have a slot on Ace, I think we'll attack turn 1, and then right before the special bind expires, we'll move on to the next stage. So we'll just do normal attacks here on the first round. Making sure to hit as many perfects as possible. Good damage there with Ace. Really good. And then we'll go ahead and use a Boa Hancock special. So remember, Boa will delay the enemy. It does 20,000 damage fixed 6 times. And it also makes all the shooter characters' type slots beneficial. So good damage, delay, and we've got the slots. So this will be an easy dub here. We'll attack with Ace early. There we go, down. Man, we're just flying through this content right now. But we're on the final boss now. The final boss is scary, right? We have this Doflamingo. He's very annoying because one thing that we have to deal with is we get slot binded, right? Now, slot bind is not something that a lot of characters in the early days of Treasure Cruise had a way to deal with. Even if characters had limit break, rainbowing a character was pretty difficult back when limit break first came out. So at this point here, this Doflamingo, we're gonna have to stall. We're definitely gonna have to stall. Hopefully he doesn't do too much damage to us here. So we'll go ahead and do some normal attacks first. And then we'll see what he does on the next turn. I'm actually not too sure what he does. We do have the ship special, which is actually pretty good. So what's he going to do? He's going to do some damage. That sucks. And what does he do? Another slot change. Oh, we got a recovery and a tandem slot. That really does kind of suck. We can actually use the ship special, which actually does... I think it's a 7 or an 11% health cut. I think it's 7%. So that's a nice bit of extra damage as well. But I feel like we might as well just go for it. I mean, like, look, Van Augur, he's not really going to be doing that much damage anyway. Boa Hancock, if she had a recovery slot, we probably would have had to have done something about that. We could also just, like, heal with that recovery slot, wait one more turn and see what happens. Or we could just go for it. You know what? Let's just go for it. If we fail, we'll run it back. Let's just go for it. All right, let's go ahead and use the Ace special. So Ace, of course, is going to go ahead and give us a 2 times attack boost to our shooter characters. And he also does a bit of damage based on how much health we have. But we don't have that much health anyway, so that really doesn't matter. We use the Van Augur special, which is going to change the top row character slots to matching. Didn't even know that he did that, but he also gives us that 1.75 times orb boost, which is pretty good. And then we can use the Kuzan special, which is going to give us a 2.5 chain lock. It does damage, but it also extends the duration of any attack and orb boost that we have. So that's going to be fantastic, so that we can keep it for the following turn, of course. So that's great. I love this Kuzan. Especially when he first came out, this Kuzan was so busted as well. Alright, so at this point, we could use the Boa Hancock special, but I kind of want to save it for the next turn just in case. Yeah, let's go ahead and save that. And hopefully this is enough damage to kill. Here we go. Yes, it was just enough. 6.6 million damage, yo. Hey, yo. He recovers for only, was that 50k? It wasn't really that much. And you can see that he does special bind some of our characters, which is really, really bad. Okay, and he also does the slot bind. This just lots of nasty, nasty stuff. So this is why we have this guy right here, so that we can remove that barrier. I think typically when this actually came out, you were supposed to use the super evolution of V2 Lore, because his special would actually remove enemy barriers. So now that that's done, normal attack should be enough to get the dub, especially because we still have the attack boost from the Ace that was extended. And there it is. And there it is. We did it. V2 Boa Hancock against Doflamingo. That was pretty awesome. We got through that really quickly as well. I mean, it helps having a ship that can give you -2 cooldown, -2 cooldown from sockets as well. Extremely fast team. We just absolutely flew through it. That was ridiculously good. And with all of that, that's going to wrap up another episode of the Legends of OPTC series. And looking forward to next week's episode, we've got a really interesting one in Legend Eneru is going to be making his appearance. That was a pretty big event. That is a very, very fun character. I don't know how we're going to showcase him, but we'll try and figure it out. A very, very interesting legend. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video with V2 Boa Hancock, an amazing legend. We absolutely flew through that content. It was a joy to use this character once again. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. And if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.